Hey, good morning, my friends. It's Friday, July 25th, 2025. What the heck happened to July? July 25th. It's almost over. Second half of the year already begun, almost 1/6 of the way over. Crazy. Anyway, good morning, y'all. Thank you for joining me for your daily mortgage market update. My name is Hammer. This is the Rate Sensei Show. I don't know if that's going to catch on. I'm not feeling it, but that's our brand that I'm putting all the rate stuff through. So, anyway, today we're going to talk about South Park. I'm curious, how many of y'all watch South Park, and how many have watched the season 27, episode 1, Sermon from the Mount, I think it's called, episode, the one that just came out? Let me know in the comments. I'm curious if y'all have watched it. Also, we're going to talk about the Trump visiting the Fed building and if that has any effect on rates. We'll talk about that for a minute. And then also what next week has in store for rates. There's a lot more meat on the bone to talk about for next week. Next week's going to be a busy week, so I want to give you a preview on what's going on. We'll talk about locking, floating as we head into next week. Remember, you can join me live each and every weekday morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. If you're here this morning, say good morning. Yasmin Martin, good morning. Angela Walters, great to see you. If you are here this morning, say good morning. If you're watching the replay, don't forget to give me a hashtag replay in the comments. Let me know that you were here. Don't forget to smash that like button, tag an LO friend, share this post in the group, all that good stuff. Also, your comments are the favorite part of my day. So make sure you do come on and tell me what's on your mind. We're going to have some fun discussion today. Remember, this is a safe zone. Nothing you say here is a bad thing, and I don't feel judged, and I certainly don't judge anyone else. So yeah, Yasmin, TGIF, I'm feeling it. Even though I was, the first part of the week I was on the motorcycle, I guess I don't love coming back to work. I'm looking forward to a nice day. I got a lot to do this weekend, so I'm going to jump on it today. Good morning, Mike Brown, Julie Lawrence, Chris Dickerson, Amy Blauser. Great to have all of you here. Remember, if you want a quick reminder that I'm going live, go to hmmr.io/reminder or use this cool QR code over here to go ahead and sign up. And if you're on your phone right now, you can actually take a screenshot, go to your photos, and the QR code will work. Love that they did that. That is awesome, awesome, awesome. All right. Also, if you would like a free lock advice email, I send out an email each and every weekday morning. You can sign up for that at ratelockadvice.com. You can also sign up for our text alerts at ratetextalerts.com. They're $7 a month. Give them a try. You'll see what we think about those. Chris Dickerson, thank you, sir, for tagging some other originators. Appreciate you. Candido Diaz, good morning, man. Sean Segaloff, sorry you're late. You were watching South Park. I know that you would have loved this South Park. I know some of your personal leanings. So, Jerry Avila, good to see you, sir. And there you go. So let's go ahead. Anyone else here live, say good morning. Otherwise, we'll jump into what we got going on and we'll get into it. So the question of the day is, did you see the recent South Park episode? Do you watch South Park? So we're going to talk about this closer to the end of the show this morning. So I'll come back to this if y'all start answering it. I'm not going to hit this one first. We're going to get to the good stuff. That way, anybody doesn't want to hear any of the rest of it doesn't have to stick around. So, but let me know in the comments about that one. Just curious on your take on it. I think you'd be surprised at what I think. So, all right, let's go ahead and get to the good stuff here. We'll start off with mortgage-backed securities and a quick recap of what happened yesterday. My computer reset, so let me open up Presentify. There we go. All right, so if you take a look yesterday, if you remember, we had this down drop. You know what? Let me zoom in on this so we can make this bigger. Whoop! Come on. Why will it not? All right, hold on. Let me try one more time. Try something different. All right, I'm gonna have to do it this way. But then I always have to refresh the screen. Yep, I got to refresh the screen now. Okay, so taking a look at mortgage-backed securities, You could see right here we had that dip. That was with the jobless claims yesterday when they came in for the sixth week in a row lower than expected, showing resiliency in the labor market. But you can see there was a recovery after that. We were basically right back where we were. So this is generally when you see that kind of reaction, it's just a knee jerk reaction. It's just trades, but the overall sentiment didn't change anything. That's what you want to take away here. And then as we look at the end of the day, mortgage-backed securities end of the day just a little bit better than when most lenders came out with pricing. There were a handful of reprices better. I mean, just a few. Generally, some wholesale lenders, and a lot of them they came out with pricing early, so that's why they repriced better, because their early pricing was showing some of the worse performance in mortgage-backed securities. Rate sheets today likely to be very similar to what we saw yesterday. You may see the slightest smidge worse, but it's not going to be much at all. And what's crazy is we ended the week before 6.81 on 7/18, Friday 7/18. Today we'll probably be right back there at that 6.81. Again, you're not seeing much of a difference in rates. It's kind of what we expected for the week, and that's what we got for the week. Now, reprice risk on the day is low. It is a summer day, a summer Friday, and that means that traders are basically taking the day off. We had durable goods this morning. I don't even know how they came out. They didn't really have much of an effect on anything, and they're not a big data point anyway. They're not really showing much, so not much that we have to get excited about or worried about when it comes to that. Let me shrink this down now that I made the screen smaller. So 10-year treasury yield 4.41 at the moment when we round that. Basically that 4.40 area, right kind of our central point. Mortgage-backed securities, you can see right about here, went down, right? They went down to here, came back up to here, and you put that in the middle, and wow, that's where we are right now, right in the middle of the range. So that's likely what we're going to see continue from here. Today should be a quiet day. Locking is not the most urgent thing. Now, again, the outlook remains likely at the end of the week about the same as we did last week. Make a quick edit. I don't have to say tomorrow because that's now today. So we'll save that. Should be a quiet day. It's summertime in the city. It's the same thing that we've been talking about. Let's go ahead and have some fun. Let's talk about some of the things. Look at these Bloomberg headlines. It shows you kind of it's a boring day, right? All they really talk about here is Trump's building tour ends with a relief signal for Powell. So there really ends up being no drama there. Fed says, they're playing nice. Fed says he was honored by Trump's tour of the building site. Right. Yeah, we all know how truthful that is. If you want an idea of why it costs so much, again, there was an article I pointed to for the last couple of days. This really gave me some great insight. I still think it's a ridiculous amount of money, but I understand why it's a ridiculous amount of money. This article, we'll go ahead and take a quick second look here. Trump's Fed building tour ends with a relief signal. President Trump's unprecedented walkthrough with the Federal Reserve's now controversial building renovation project. All of this, much ado about nothing. And who started this ball rolling? Bill Pulte. Imbecile Bill Pulte. There's no tension with Powell, Trump said after the Thursday tour, which featured the two men publicly trading barbs over the cost of a project. The president's allies have used to blast the Fed chair's leadership. Yeah, that about drums it up. Need I mention imbecile Pulte? The president indicated the problems with the project probably weren't the reason to fire the central bank head. To do that is a big move, and I just don't think it's necessary. So this doesn't seem like a big deal, but it's good because it'll stop the speculation and the drama, and it kind of puts an end to that piece of it. Because there was some speculation that Trump would try to use fraud on the renovation to oust Powell, and there was never any real truth to that. Powell's not the general contractor. He's the Fed chair. So, fraud would be some serious, you'd have to do a lot. Fraud would be if they were saying it was 2.5 billion and Powell took $1 million of it. That's fraud. Otherwise, kind of hard to have fraud here. So anyway, that's what you got going on with that. Next week is, of course, the big week and what we've got going on. So next week we've got Fed meeting, we've got BLS labor data. Now remember though, I'm not going to pull up the screen and show you on the calendar, but So we've got the Fed meeting. This is the July Fed meeting. Next Fed meeting is September. But between the July meeting and the September meeting, we're going to have this BLS jobs data, but there's another one, the one on September 5th. All right. So we're going to have August 1st, right? We have jobs data next week, but it's the one on the 5th that's going to have more of an impact because it's right before the Fed meeting. We're also going to have CPI inflation data. I think it's on August 12th, but I'd have to double check. We've got those things coming up. Anything closing near term, I would like to float into the Fed meeting. I don't think the Fed meeting is going to help rates. I really don't. I don't think the Fed is going to give us any kind of dovish statement. I think they're going to say that they continue to wait to see if inflation shows up for the second half of the year. Now, I wanted to share is my man. You know what? Hold on. I'm going to your comments about that. So that Jerome Powell skit with the president was hilarious. He was so respectful despite the man dragging his character. Didn't watch South Park. Yeah. So the let's see. Nobody's really talking about the South Park thing. So did any of you watch South Park, or am I the only like 15-year-old in the crowd? So here's the deal. South Park was really, really going at Trump hard. Not things that I find funny, to be honest. I found the humor crude, and what I did like about it was that they weren't afraid to make fun of the president. And that's a big deal right now when you look at the Colbert thing and different things. So a lot of this stuff does matter because it influences the overall what's going on with markets and what's going on with companies and all these different things. So it's not a direct, correlation. I'm not going to go too deep on it, but South Park, like I said, I don't think it was necessarily even that funny. And I don't necessarily agree with attacking people the way that they did, but I do appreciate the fact that we did have somebody going after the president, and despite all of the constant lawsuits, right now Trump has a lot of lawsuits against he's going against Wall Street Journal. He did 60 Minutes and CBS and all the different things. So it was good to see that. As far as the other stuff that we were going to get on, so interesting Wall Street Journal article, and let's see, here you go. So interesting Wall Street Journal article here about Trump's tariffs are being picked up by corporate America. Neither consumers nor foreign countries are assuming much of the tariff burden, at least not yet. So this is definitely what I have been saying on how I see it as a corporate tax. And I think that eventually that, some of that will trickle down to the consumer, and it already is trickling down to the consumer. U.S. businesses are absorbing tariff costs, but some plan price hikes as inflation starts ticking up on some tariffed goods such as toys. Some foreign suppliers have trimmed some prices, but nowhere near the levels Trump promised when he said foreign countries would foot the bill. And that's what I said. There's some instances where like China has subsidized some of these, so they have actually absorbed and paid the tariffs. But most of the time, this is just a tax, y'all. I don't know why everyone gets so excited about it and thinks like this is like other countries. It's just a tax. It's another way to bring in revenue. It's how much of it hits consumer. Yes, a lot of companies, when you look at these, profits in the billions per quarter, they can afford it. But will they? Will they? These are the corporations that don't treat their employees well. There's no social conscience. They are totally for the shareholders. It's a big division between the haves and the have-nots. Do you think the Waltons are going to be like, no, we're going to foot the bill? No, they're going to pass it along. So U.S. has collected an additional $55 billion in tariffs this year. Corporate America has largely shouldered the bill. And I've also referenced like GM, Ford, a lot of these companies put it in their projections and it's already there. President Trump's new levies, which have pushed the country's tariffs to the highest levels in decades, typically paid by importers when goods reach U.S. ports. There's a little mystery about who makes the first payment. It's often a manufacturer, a logistics or customs broker, or in some cases, the retailer itself that ordered the shipment. Economists and others have been watching for signs of who will ultimately bear the cost. And this is what the reason we're going over this is that this is what the Fed is going to reference when we get to the Fed meeting. So the chance of a Fed rate cut in July, basically 0%. Markets are at 95%. Chances of a cut in September It's increased a little bit. It's up to 61%. If we compare that to where it's been the last, little bit, a week ago, it was 55. So it's up a little bit. There's a little bit more of a speculation that we'll be in a position to see a Fed rate cut in September. So again, we're going to get the jobs data after this next Fed meeting. So at the Fed meeting, I don't think there's going to be any inclination to say, hey, we're going to go ahead and start doing things. I think you're going to see a lot more of the same messaging we've gotten before, which is we're waiting to see how tariffs impact prices. We believe it's going to impact the second half of the year. Remember, we're not there yet. So you'll see the jobs data. Unless we get really, really weak jobs data, I don't think we're in a position that rates will go down that much from here. If rates do go down, you're basically looking at an eighth of a point in rate. I mean, that would be a lot for rates to go down. So we can cautiously float, but again, loans with time have less concern. Loans that are closing near term, if you're looking to lock just to wrap it up and and be done with it, there's nothing wrong with that. Definitely don't be afraid to just lock it up and be done with it. So if it's closing the next couple weeks. But I would at least float into the Fed meeting. I don't think we're going to see rates lose much ground next week as we float into that Fed meeting. Let's take a look at what is on the calendar for. Hold on, I got to make this bigger so that there it is. Okay. All right. So let's check out the economic calendar. All right. So looking at the economic calendar for next week, we've got Monday, you've got the 2-year and 5-year auctions. Tuesday, we're going to have some home pricing data. You've got JOLTS. So Tuesday is JOLTS. That's going to be, some area, but it's not going to have a huge effect. Wednesday, we've got the actual Fed meeting in the afternoon. And then Thursday, we've got core PCE. So it actually comes out after the Fed meeting, not before the Fed meeting. So this is really going to get a minimal reaction because this data is going to be so old by the time we get to the next Fed meeting. It's not going to really, I don't think, get much play at all. And then we're going to see some reaction to the BLS jobs data. Now, again, you're going to see rates move next week. We're going to see some movement. So loans closing in the next couple of weeks have the most to lose or gain here. Loans that have time, 30 days from now, that are closing, new apps, I wouldn't worry about locking ahead of any of this. We're definitely going to see some give and take on this, but I don't think you have to worry about rates going up and staying up and moving it much from here. So, unless you want to they love the rate, they want to lock, they're risk averse, then you lock. But other than that, I don't think there's a lot of urgency to locking. I think we'll see things come back down. So, all right, my friends, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Doesn't look like many of y'all either watch South Park or want to talk about it, and that's fine. So I'm going to wrap it up for the weekend. Let me know, what are y'all doing this weekend? I'm going to go work on the barn. I want to get the insulation finished, start putting the walls up. I need to get the electric ready. I'm getting dialed in to get the electric company to come out and run the lines and remove my power pole and stuff like that. And we'll go from there. So tell me what you're doing in the comments. Love to hear what's going on in your lives. And I will see you on Monday. All right, everybody, make it a great day.